As someone with sensitive guts, I look at foods and I immediately start calculating, like, what's this going to do to my inside? But I'm also often very drawn to those exact same foods.
Well, that's a problem for a lot of people.
And here's something I didn't know until recently. A lot of foods that cause digestive issues contain compounds called FODMAPs. And that's where FODzyme comes in.
FODzyme is a tasteless powder you sprinkle right into your food, and it helps break down FODMAPs, the hard-to-digest components in food that can cause bloating, gas, and pain before they cause discomfort.
And I was making a salad the other day, and it was like half raw cabbage. So what did I do? Sprinkled a little FODzyme on there.
It makes digestion easier, so you can eat more of what you love. Think of it like Lactaid, but for garlic and onions and wheat, beans, cheese, other common foods with FODMAPs.
Every customer gets access to a free consultation with a registered dietitian who can help you figure out how to use FODzyme with your specific trigger foods.
We're excited to partner with FODzyme and offer you 30% off your first order when you go to icaneatagain.com/oddities.
That's icaneatagain.com/oddities for 30% off your first order.
Finally, you can enjoy your favorite foods without the pain. Just go to icaneatagain.com/oddities.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man, an 8-episode series, now streaming on Disney+.
A superhero remake, not exactly what we'd expect from an Oscar-winning director.
Action! Simon Williams, audition for Wonder Man.
I'm gonna need you to sign this, assuming you don't have superpowers.
I'll never work again if anyone found out.
My lips are sealed.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man. All 8 episodes now streaming, only on Disney+.
The Box of Oddities.
Oh, hello, friend.
Oh, hello.
So nice of you to join us on this beautiful whatever day you're listening to this on is.
Susie writes us, "Hello, Mother, Father. Your adopted freak from Orlando here. I was wondering if you were still doing listener requests. And if you were, I'd absolutely love it if you could play the episode of the Kentucky Blue Folks. It's something I think of often and is one of my fun fact icebreakers, LOL. If you're no longer accepting requests, please disregard this. I hope you're finding yourself in air conditioning with all the fancy fun drinks and snackies. Con mucho amor, Susie."
Oh, Susie.
Susie, thank you. Because of you, it is a Freak Family Favorites. I want to take you back to 1820. Martin Fugate was a French orphan who emigrated to Kentucky to claim a land grant on the wilderness banks of Troublesome Creek.
I like the way this is starting.
You do?
Oh, yes.
Okay, because of land claims and...
No, just the way you're telling the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you've drawn me in already.
Martin met and married a woman named Elizabeth Smith, who was said to be as white as the mountain laurel that blooms every spring around the creek hollows. Martin and Elizabeth settled on the banks of the Troublesome and began a family. They had 7 children. 4 of them were blue.
Oh, yes, I know where you're going with this. Yeah, the blue people from Kentucky.
It's the blue people from Kentucky.
All right, now I know of this, but I know none of the details.
Okay.
And I remember, didn't somebody send us something about that recently?
Somebody did not long ago.
Okay.
Amy sent this suggestion on Instagram, and I was actually, weirdly enough, and maybe it was because of the Picts and their blue faces and that conversation. Maybe that's why it was on both of our minds, but I was already researching it. And so when she sent the message, I was like, squee! Okay. So, yay. So the odds of this match were pretty incalculable, as Michael Scott would say. But Martin managed to find and marry a woman who carried the same recessive gene called methemoglobinemia.
It's methanoblomolia.
Okay. We're going to call it MET-H.
Okay.
So MET-H Met-H is a condition caused by elevated levels of methemoglobin in the blood. It's a form of hemoglobin, which I do know how to say.
Now,
Yes.
Now, was he blue or just carried the gene?
We don't know.
Oh.
There are no records that speak of his skin tone, which would make you think that he was not blue, but it's likely that he was.
Wow. Because if he wasn't and his wife wasn't and they were just carrying this gene, that would have been weird.
Yeah. Well, either way, 4 of the kids turned out very, very blue. So they're simply known as the blue people of the hills around Troublesome and Ball Creeks. Most lived to their 80s and 90s without serious illness associated with the skin discoloration.
They were just blue.
They were just blue. The family, though, they did have some struggles with it. They were embarrassed and they were discriminated against because their skin was blue. Their community didn't treat them well because of their skin color. And this caused them to seek more isolation, which is really ironic, and it exacerbated the problem because in most cases, methemoglobinemia is in almost all cases a product of inbreeding.
Really? Okay.
Because the recessive gene is so rare, it's even more rare to encounter someone else who has it unless they're related. So in this time, in rural eastern Kentucky, there weren't real roads. There wasn't a railroad going through that part of the state until the early 1910s. It was a small settlement, no way to connect to nearby towns, and that meant that the local youngins had very limited supplies of potential partners, and that led to a lot of intermarrying. Fugate and Smith's son, Zachariah, for example, ended up marrying his aunt.
Okay, these were isolated hill folk.
Yes.
Okay.
The Appalachia. And it really became more of a problem because they were kind of not accepted by the community, so they stayed to their own, and it fed on itself. Now, at this time, they didn't know that this was a hemoglobin issue. I mean, they weren't, out there testing their bloods and such.
I would venture to guess that they never said the word hemoglobin.
It's probably true.
In the hills of Kentucky.
Yeah. But there was a lot of speculation about what had caused this situation. And it included things like heart disease or lung disorders that would have kept the blood from getting enough oxygen. There was a possibility proposed by one old timer in the region that, quote, their blood is just a little closer to their skin.
Okay. Like the whole blue blood thing.
If we're talking about it like Aristocrats.
Yeah.
And not that show with Tom Selleck.
Was the family Caucasian?
Yes.
I'm wondering during that particular time in American history, you said that they were discriminated against. I'm wondering how people in those times categorized this family, because things were literally black and white in those days.
Yeah. Probably they were just looked at as like freaks. That obviously they didn't know what caused this, but they did know that they were a very isolated group of people. They probably knew that they didn't venture much outside of their family.
Did they have the same rights as Caucasians did at the time?
They did. I mean, there wasn't a huge enough population to create laws that would have been like, don't use our drinking fountains.
Right.
But I imagine that it would have been like, no, I'm not going to sell you my donkeys, or the shopkeep wouldn't have given them a tab at the store. I don't know of specific instances, but I imagine that being the kind of thing, just a general bullying of sorts. But the doctors in Kentucky didn't make their way to the mountains very often, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway because they wouldn't have understood what was going on. So there was a guy named Madison Cowan, and he began hearing rumors about the blue people when he went to work at the University of Kentucky's Lexington Medical Clinic in 1960. He would drive back and forth between Lexington and Hazard, which is, I guess, about an 8-hour drive, looking for the blue people that he'd heard about. The American Heart Association Association had a clinic in Hazard, and it was there that he met a nurse who had offered to help him in this research, and her name was Ruth Pendergrass, and she'd been trying to get interest spurred in the blue people ever since a very dark blue woman came into her clinic on a very cold afternoon and asked for a blood test.
So there were different shades of blue within the family? No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And apparently to some great degree.
No kidding.
Pendergrass recalled, quote, "She had been out in the cold and she was just blue. Her face and fingernails were in deep indigo. It scared me to death. It looked like she was having a heart attack. I just knew that this patient was going to die there in the health department, but she wasn't tall alarmed."
She wasn't tall alarmed.
She told me that her family was the Blue Combses who lived up on Ball Creek. She was a sister to one of the Fugate women. About this same time, another of the Blue Combs named Luke had become sick.
Luke Combs?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's the same one because this was in the 60s.
Dang it.
But Luke was... What did I say? Oh, yes. Okay, so he had taken his sick wife up to a clinic in Lexington, and Pendergrass said that one look at Luke was enough to get those doctors down here in a hurry. So Ruth Pendergrass said that every once in a while she'd see a blue person like up on a hill or something, and she'd just take off trying to catch them, and they would run away from her.
Yeah, well, what do you expect? What the hell? I would run away too. If I lived in the hills and I ventured down and immediately I was chased by city folk.
But eventually, there were a few of the blue people who came in, and Cowan describes them in this way. They were bluer than hell. Well, as you can imagine, I had to examine them. After concluding that there was no evidence of heart disease, I said, aha, and I started asking them questions. Do you have any relatives that are blue? And then I sat down and we began to chart the family. Okay, so once Cowan had determined that this was an enzyme deficiency, he thought of an antidote, and he said that it was perfectly obvious, and it was methylene blue. Now, some of the blue people were quite skeptical and did not want to take this blue dye to cure them from being blue.
Right.
That seemed counterintuitive.
Here, you're on fire. Let me give you some fire.
I'll just put this here with the rest of the fire. But Cowan knew from earlier studies that the body had an alternative method of converting methemoglobin back into like normal functioning non-blue bits. Okay. He chose this substance, methylene blue, because it had been used successfully and safely in other types of disorders, and it worked quickly. So he brought his black bag and rounded up Nurse Pendergrass, who he described as a big old nurse. And I just don't understand how that's relevant in any way. You know, it's the storytelling of the time, I guess.
It is, I guess.
So they went over to Patrick and Rachel Ritchie's house, and they were the two that had originally come into their clinic, and they injected each of them with 100 milligrams of methylene blue. Within a few minutes, the blue color was gone from their skin.
Shut up!
The doctor said for the first time in their lives, they looked pink. And they were delighted.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long did the effect last? Did they have to keep going back in for blue dye injections?
What he did was handed out capsules that the blue people would take every day. And it maintained their normal let's say normal skin color. The methylene blue is excreted through your urine, and if you were to stop taking it, you'd become blue again. But if you take it every day, you're just going to be a regular old skin person.
Wait, do you pee blue?
That seems to be the case.
God, that's so awesome.
One of the old timers reported as saying that he could see the blue leaving his body, but he thought it was his blue.
Oh. I want to pee blue.
just for a while.
There's a medication that I take every once in a while if I get a urinary tract infection that makes me pee orange, and that is really
Well, that's alarming.
concerning.
Yeah. Blue's more festive.
Blue is more festive.
Yeah.
You can poop gold.
That's true, too.
They've got those gold capsules.
In the holidays, take a couple of those and some blue capsules and go outside and decorate your yard. Yeah.
Yard decorations. Anyway, so most of them were absolutely thrilled with this. The doctor was thrilled that he'd been able to treat them successfully. And over the years, as the family expanded, because they were able to get out of their very tight-knit community, roads were built, the railroad came through, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
They started to spread out, and you're not seeing the blue people really anymore. However, 20 years ago, there was a boy born in Lexington, I think, and he was completely blue. And the doctors and nurses at the hospital were very concerned because his parents weren't blue. And eventually, one of the nurses was talking to the mom, and the mom was like, well, haven't you guys ever heard of the blue people of Kentucky? And the nurse was like, no, what?
And then they all burst into a round of the Eiffel 65 hit.
But she, like, her great grandmother was one of the original blue Fugates. And she was described as one of the super blues. I don't think they called them super blues, but she was a very blue woman.
Wow.
Very, very blue. So the bluest they've seen. So apparently that gene made its way to this kid who is being treated for his blue skin, and you wouldn't know any better that he was blue.
He just has to maintain that
That's
blue
right.
dye intake. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's mostly due, you said, to limited procreational options, shall we say.
Yeah, their family tree was more like a manhole cover.
Hey, we got this email. Kat and Jethro, just a quick thank you. I heard you mention quince on your show a while back and decided to order a few things for my mom for Mother's Day.
Aww.
She absolutely loved them and has already asked me where I found the brand. So thanks for accidentally making me look much more of a thoughtful daughter than I probably am. And yeah, we love quince. I'm wearing my quince shorts right now.
And making our way into summer, those shorts are going to be an essential for you.
Quince has beautiful everyday pieces like 100% European linen pants, dresses, and tops with styles starting at $32.
And the really important thing for us is Quince works directly with ethical factories, so you're paying for quality, not for a brand name.
And everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar products.
I have a set of Quince linen pillowcases on my bed right now. Oh, it makes me feel like such a fancy lady.
It's time for a new summer wardrobe. Elevate your wardrobe. Go to quince.com/oddities for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns.
Now available in Canada, too. Woo. That's QUINCE.com/oddities for free shipping and 365-day returns.
Quince.com/oddities.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
It's the part of the podcast that's been told it looks like child star Mason Reese and takes it as a compliment. This is That Thing in the Middle.
I love you for finding this list. I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Here are some of the stranger roadside attractions in the great United States of America.
I love you, weirdos.
Number 5, the Jimmy Carter Peanut Statue. It's been described as a mildly unnerving 13-foot toothy nut.
Number 4, I'm bringing it to Maine. You can visit Lenny the Chocolate Moose in Scarborough. See the 1,700 pounds of stale 18-year-old chocolate shaped like a moose, named Lenny.
Number 3, the world's most scenic urinal. At Hawaii's Hotel Kona, making a pit stop here is the main attraction. And it's lovely, I have to say.
Number 2, in North Carolina, you can see the world's largest chest of drawers. Oh, you didn't know that High Point was the home furnishings capital of the world? Well, this 38-foot dresser is here to remind you.
And number 1, in Louisiana, Nicolas Cage's tombs. Some say that one thing that's weirder than the fact that Nicolas Cage is still making movies is the fact that his burial plot's already picked out. It's a 10-foot tall, National Treasure-esque pyramid inscribed with the phrase, "Everything from one." That's for Nick.
But did he buy that?
Yes.
Oh.
And apparently that's a piece of property he still owns.
You snarky bitch.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
Sometimes these liners just aren't very creative. Like that one just now. This is the Box of Oddities.
Hey, we got a message from Dustin who said, did you guys know that there is a Box of Oddities subreddit on Reddit? I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I feel like someone had mentioned it a while ago, but it hadn't really gathered any traction at that point.
Yeah. So I checked it out.
It was the very early days.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, early.
Yeah, I checked it out, and yeah, it was started like almost a year ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, one of the things that he asked is that we would mention that, so maybe more people would join in. So there you go. There's a Box of Oddities subreddit for you if you want to check that out. Okay. In 2003, there was a local explorer in Chile.
Oh, I want to go to Chile.
Me too. We'll go one day. And this guy, I don't want to categorize him as a amateur archaeologist because that has a lot of connotations associated with it. He was just a guy who liked to explore indigenous ruins.
Okay. I don't see what the problem is with being an amateur archaeologist anyway.
Well, I think that they've been responsible for ruining a lot of dig sites and digging things up inappropriately and losing information and data. And
all right, so that's a not good amateur archaeologist.
That's true. That is true.
I'm sure that an amateur chef here and there has poisoned someone, but that doesn't mean that all amateur chefs are going to give you E. coli.
That is a point well taken.
Thank you.
In 2003, in the Atacama Desert of northern Chile, an amateur collector was exploring an abandoned village, and he came across a white cloth inside a leather pouch.
Ooh.
Found in the ruins of one of the dwellings. He opened it up, obviously,
sure.
And inside was a most curious object.
Are you going to tell us?
No, that's the end of the story.
Okay.
It was a strange, human-like cadaver. It was only about 6 to 8 inches in length. It had hardened teeth. It had 10 ribs instead of 12. It had giant eye sockets, an elongated, pointy skull. It had all kinds of humanoid-type features, but it didn't really look human.
Oh, no.
Now, we're going to have to post this picture because there is no way for me to accurately describe it without showing it to you.
Aha.
So does that look like it's real to you? It looks like a little alien.
Real meaning what? I think that's a tough question.
Not a hoax.
Like someone didn't plant that in a sheet in a leather pouch.
It wasn't created in the Jim Henson workshop. And then,
Sure. Yeah. No, that looks very realistic.
Well, since the discovery, the tiny form has created all kinds of curiosity, of course. And again, this was 2003. And there have been a few people who speculate that these are the remains of an alien life form. It was preserved by the dry desert conditions, and they named it Ata because of the area.
Okay.
It was found in ATA. It's undeniably weird. And it's, like I said, only 6 to 8 inches. And the explorer took it with him and kept it. And then ultimately in 2012, it was purchased by a Spanish businessman.
All right. Well, that's where the amateur archaeologist in him failed.
Right.
That's not...
You've been poisoned by E. coli. The Spanish businessman Ramon Navia Osorio purchased the mummy in 2012. And then he allowed a doctor named Stephen Greer to use X-rays and different types of computerized imaging to analyze this skeleton.
Mm-hmm. Now, my first thought is that this is a deformed fetus that the people didn't understand or know what to do with, so they wrapped it up and is that...
That's certainly something that a lot of people thought, but the question was, if this was an embryo, the size of it would have precluded the advancement of the bone structure.
Okay.
The bone structure indicated that if this had been human, it would have been more like 6 to 8 years old because of the way that it had been developed. But it was only 6 to 8 inches. It had that long, pointy skull, and it was different ribs. And it was hard to say that that was actually the case. So he gives it to this doctor, Stephen Greer. Stephen Greer does all these computer imaging and X-ray analysis of the skeleton. He's convinced it's an alien. But he is also the founder of the Disclosure Project, which is, quote, working to fully disclose the facts about UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence. And also classified energy and propulsion systems, according to the website.
So he might be a little biased.
He's probably not the most impartial person to give these remains to. In 2013, a documentary was being filmed about it. It was called Sirius. It was based on Stephen Greer's book that he wrote about this incident called Forbidden Knowledge. The film was fairly successful. It was funded by a Kickstarter campaign. It follows Greer's efforts to reveal what he claims is information about top secret energy projects and propulsion techniques, and that this particular artifact that they found was, in fact, proof that this was an alien that had died sometime in the distant past in what is now Chile.
That brings up a great question, if I do say so myself. When do they think that this was put in the fanny pack?
In the fanny pack. Do aliens wear fanny packs?
I think they must. They're constantly traveling. It's the easiest way to carry around your small things.
At this point, they thought that it looked like, based on the way that it had been preserved, it could be thousands of years old.
What?
Well, this is what they thought at this point, before any additional testing had taken place. So while this documentary was being filmed, a guy named Gary Nolan, he's an immunologist at Stanford University, heard about the filming of this and heard about the remains that had been found. And he contacted the producers of the documentary, which is called Sirius, while it was still in production. They were still making it. And he said, you know what? This is fascinating. I have access to all sorts of DNA testing equipment here at Stanford University. Why don't you, as part of your documentary, let me do some DNA tests and we'll figure out once and for all what this is.
He sounds like a reasonable dude. I like it.
So the skeleton's owner, the businessman from Spain, agreed to X-ray images as well as bone marrow samples taken from the ribs and the right humerus. A geneticist at the University of Santiago de Compostela in Spain, he was not involved in the study. said it's a very beautiful example of how genomics can help to disentangle an anthropological or archaeological dilemma. They did not know, obviously, what this was.
Yeah. It's like what forensics is to police work.
Yeah. He went on to call it DNA autopsies. I love that term. He said they could help shed light on medical disorders by looking to the past to understand the present. So he was clearly thinking that this was some sort of a human that was suffering from some sort of genetic deformity. Once Dr. Nolan and his colleagues got the samples, they were able to retrieve fragments of DNA from the bone marrow cells without any struggle at all. No issue at all. A computational biologist at the University of California, San Francisco, and co-author of the study, Atul Bhute, said, "We did think it was a human at first, but we had no idea what we were going to ultimately find out." The scientists eventually were able to reconstruct almost the entire genome of Atta. And here's what they found out. Atta was a female, a girl. They found most closely related to indigenous Chileans, but also had a substantial amount of European ancestry. So they determined that it was, in fact, human. They had no specific date other than they knew that there was Chilean ancestry as well as European, so it would have been post-Columbian.
Sure.
It would have been like 1500s on. So relatively recent compared to what they were originally thinking, which was a couple of thousands of years ago. And since Chile was colonized in the 1500s, it kind of at least gave them a framework.
Sure.
But here's the thing. There is no genetic condition known to mankind that would explain the condition of these remains. They still have no official explanation as to what is going on here, other than it has DNA from indigenous people from Chile, as well as some European DNA. So they're thinking that it could very well be a bizarre combination of genetic deformities. They did additional studies, and out of like 2 million different types of possibilities, they narrowed it down to 54 that could have caused some of these conditions. So what they think, their best guess is that this was a child that was born in this area, post-Columbian. Their best guess at this point is that it is a highly unlikely but possible combination up to 7 very rare genetic deformities happening all at once that caused this child to be the way it was.
Wow.
In addition to that, they determined that it wasn't several thousand years old.
Right.
It wasn't even from the 1500s. It was about 40 years old.
What?
Yeah. Scientists are saying that this should, pretty much put this controversy to bed. Doctors who treat children with rare genetic bone disorders also think the debate highlights how archaeologists and other scientists can be misled by genetic disorders that cause unusual physical features. Like, for example, the controversy surrounding the hobbits, the small creatures that were discovered, maybe 15 years ago in Indonesia. Scientists still debate over whether those little creatures were relatives of modern humans or simply humans that were unusually small in stature.
Hole scoochers.
All humans, Atta included, can have many different genetic mutations, but usually only one of these mutations actually causes a child's disease. It's virtually unheard of for 7 mutations to be involved.
Whoa.
Now, since they have determined that this was actually a member of the indigenous culture and a fairly recent one, there are a number of people that are really up in arms about them taking the body from Chile and performing tests on it. In an article in a Chilean magazine, president of the Chilean Society of Anthropological Biology accused Nolan's team of ignoring Chilean laws governing the handling of human remains and pandering to populism. He said, quote, "Presumably, they were thinking of the colossal media response to the case, literally making an alien show out of this apparently tragic story."
And I think, this is a great example of the amateur archaeologist giving you E. coli.
In response to the Chilean criticisms, both the journal and the authors have added formal statements to their paper defending the policies. For reviewing work involving human remains, Genome Research editor Hilary Sussman said the journal maintains the highest standards of ethics and responsibility and responsible peer review. The Atacama Skeleton, she added, technically fell outside the publication's own guidelines. Current human subjects research policies do not typically cover the study of specimens of uncertain biological origins, such as the Atacama Skeleton, she wrote. However, they said they are reviewing their policies and they plan to adjust them accordingly. This had never happened before.
Sure.
They said that, if they had known definitively that this was a relatively recent person. I mean, if you think about it, they say this person died about 40 years ago. They found her in 2003, so she'd only been dead for a couple of decades at that point. Yeah. But the way that the desert dried her out, it just made it look like it was far older than it was.
And mom is probably still alive.
Well, that's the thing.
And I'm sorry, reading about how randos are dissecting her baby.
It's very possible. They've not been able to locate parents, obviously, and that would be a big help in determining what the conditions were that this child had, and perhaps genetically how that happened. But until that happens, or if that happens, it probably never will, we just don't know. But it's a fascinating story. It's not an alien, but it is something we have never seen before, which is 7 bizarre genetic deformities all happening at once and cutting short the life of this child. I got my information from CNN, National Geographic, Smithsonian Magazine, Cosmopolitan, and the New York Times. It's always fun to step back into the Wayback Machine and listen to older episodes. That was like somewhere in the mid-200s, maybe, I think. No, that was 147. That's right. Episode 147, I think. I'm not sure. Do you know we're coming up on 850 episodes?
I do not know that.
And if you count the bonus episodes and the Box of Oddities, we're about 1,200.
That's ridiculous.
I know, it's difficult to keep track of. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. As always, curator at theboxofoddities.com. We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep flying that freak flag.
Fly it proudly, you beautiful freak.
And so, let it be known that the Box of Oddities belongs to you, and its fate is in your hands. Henceforth, the Box of Oddities commits to the telling of stories of the strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. We wish to offer our deeply felt gratitude and appreciation for your patronage. TheBoxofOddities.com. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved.